Hello, everyone. This is Karpeh with the Socialite Production. It's windy out here, too, so it's a little shaking going on. But I'm here today, excited as I am with all of my conversations. I'm here with my dad, and we're doing a Father's Day edition conversation. This conversation is called Faith of a Father, a conversation with John Karpeh. And so before we get into it, just quickly introducing myself for those who do not know me. Like I said, I am Karpeh. I am the founder of a Socialite Production. At a Socialite Production, we are connecting the world through faith, culture, and entertainment. We do that by way of authentic storytelling. And so today we're going to be doing some authentic storytelling to honor fathers for Father's Day. And what better way to honor fathers than to honor my father, my daddy. So I'm going to have him introduce himself, but I'll start off by saying, hi, Daddy.
Hi, Janet. How are you?
Good. How are you today?
I'm great.
You great? You ready?
Very, very much ready to be here.
Much ready? Okay. So we about to get it in, see what John Karpeh got for the people. So let's start off by just introducing yourself. When I say introduce yourself, tell them your name, where you're from, and where do you currently reside?
My name is John Karpeh. I'm from Monrovia, Liberia, and I currently reside in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay. So a lot of people watching this, they know you. And there's a lot of people who will be watching this who have no clue who neither of us are, right? So I want you to take a little time to describe who you are. So as far as your character, your personality, your likes, like who is John Karpeh?
John Karpeh is very, very industrious, diligent, resilient, caring, and he loved his family.
Yes.
And he was born in Monrovia, Liberia. And I've been in Charlotte for the past 45, 46 years. And this is where I reside. This has been my home. This is where I worked. And I just like music. I love talking to people. I love doing things. I love cooking. And
you forgot one key part that you love doing.
DJing, of course.
But it's something else that comes with DJing.
Well, I like to do a lot of other stuff. So
like what?
If you can remind me that
If you like to DJ, you like music, what else are you known for that you're on the internet doing?
Communicating with people.
He loves dancing. I don't know why he
But
fried.
I mentioned that. I thought.
Oh, you mentioned dancing? Oh,
yeah.
My bad. That's me not listening. Sorry.
No, I didn't say it. But I said music. I didn't say dancing.
He didn't, but that's
fine. I put
fine.
that dancing at it. Where she's saying this because they always capture me surprisingly in a party and so on.
Yeah.
So she wanted me to emphasize
Yeah.
that. Yes, I love dancing.
There's some DJs who can't dance, right?
Well, the fact is that I was behind the turntable for over 50 years, and I wasn't dancing.
Mm-hmm.
So now is the time retire and have the chance to be on the floor. So I show my part of of the other side of John Karpeh.
Yes.
Yeah, and I, also release the pressure, release the stress. That's what I do on the floor.
Music definitely does that. Dancing definitely does that. And we're going to get more into that later, but I just wanted to call that out for now. But so today we're going to be talking about the faith of a father. And within that, we're going to be doing storytelling. And so like with the Socialite Production, what we do is storytell. And primarily, I started off by telling my story. I'm a first-generation Liberian American. I grew up in America, but within the Liberian/African culture. So I have a unique experience as it relates to my upbringing. And for Father's Day, like I said, we're honoring fathers, but I want to honor my father with him telling his story, which is also an extension of my story, which is also an extension of the story of the community. And so we will start by, let's go back to Liberia. Growing up in Liberia raised you. America raised us, but Liberia raised you. So describe First of all, describe the Liberia that you grew up in, because Liberia now is different. But just to give, not necessarily a history lesson, but just describe Liberia. How was the country when you were growing up?
Liberia then, before I left, was very, very enjoyable. That was the time, the prime time, up to 74, 75. Yes, Liberia was picking up socially greatly until there was a change of government, around 73 or so on, when the current president then died, and then the vice president had to take over. So that's where I saw the change in Liberia.
Well, let me ask real quick. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but other than that, Liberia was a free, enjoyable place that you wouldn't even want to go home at night. You want to be at the club, enjoy the club beer. I was a DJ and working, going to school, and I was able to maneuver throughout, In fact, during that time, there were hardly any clubs. Of course, there were little pockets of social gatherings and whatnot. But, of course, I didn't go to any of those gathering or places. The only place I went was when I was doing a party for a school or so, doing a party, private party and whatnot.
So I want to take you back a little further to your upbringing as a child. The Liberia that you knew then, that you grew up in. What effect did Liberia, and when I say Liberia, just a whole, like how you were brought up, what effect did Liberia have on you as a young man and as the man that you are today? What lessons did you learn? What skills did you develop?
Well, the lesson that I learned was a great lesson, because the way I was brought up. In fact, I lived with my parents from of course, my early age coming up, and I was going to school. They sent me to school, of course. So I started back St. Patrick's Elementary. Well, then it was transformed into a Cathedral Elementary School.
Mm-hmm.
So Cathedral went on, and every year I never failed. I advanced every year, and then Cathedral, and then from Cathedral I graduated Cathedral in the 9th grade, 1970. Then went to St. Patrick High School.
Mm-hmm.
I never wanted to go to school. I always ran away, and would go running around the area. Then after school, we just jump back on the road to go home. So we're coming from school. But then when we get home, we go swimming. And when we go swimming, we come back. When we come back home, they'll grab us and punish us. Well, pepper us in a way, if you know what I mean. Put the pepper in our nose. And
let's not tell that part.
So that's all part of it. Yeah. So did that several years until my mom had to take me out of there, because she felt that since my daddy was not educated, is that the kind of life I wanted to live as well. So that's how come she took me out of there and sent me to my uncle to live. Of course, this story, very, very emotional, has been very, very emotional for me, because the way it happened. But however, so I went to my uncle, took me to my uncle the very first weekend I was there on a Friday. I ran away, or tried to run away, to go back to the old life, or where I used to live, called Old Crew Town. That's where I grew up, right across from Johansson, under that cotton tree. But I didn't go too far. It so happened that my cousin, James Karpeh, Swankan, he managed to find me somewhere in the area. And he took me to the police station. Okay, the headquarters, we call it. So he took me there that evening, maybe about around 6, 7 o'clock. And when we got there, the attendant there, he went and talked to him, and the guy said, well, let him sit on the bench there. And I guess that was the protocol, I didn't know. But I stay on that bench all night, till early in the morning, the next morning, and James Swanka went for me from the headquarters. And when he took me back home, or taking me back home, it seemed as though, I mean, I don't know how to describe it, but it was a change of attitude and whatnot. Almost like a transformation, yes. Almost like I turned 360 degrees from the old from the old attitude to a new attitude. Of course, I never looked back. And so that when I re-registered St. Patrick's Elementary, where I used to go then, I think I was around 7, 8 years old, starting back in the kindergarten. Prima 1, infant reader, first grade. So I never looked back, because the fact of the matter is, I try to remember what my mom told me. You want to be like your father that's not educated? Yeah, so I graduated from St. Patrick's and went to the University of Liberia. Of course, at St. Patrick's, I was on the football team and on the basketball
Football
team.
meaning soccer for the
On the
American
soccer
people,
team.
but football for international.
Yeah, I was on the soccer team. I was on the soccer team.
Football too. Yeah.
I was on the soccer team and the basketball team, you know. And then I graduated from St. Patrick's. I went to LU my first semester. I made the team also at LU, and we traveled to play Cottonton and a few other schools and whatnot. But I decided to leave LU because situations and whatnot. So I started to work, you know. Started to work, and I was a part-time worker with my uncle at the Treasury Department. I used to take information, letters and things to various offices to deliver. So I told him I didn't want to go back to LU for whatever. He said, well, okay, I can understand working and going to school and that easy. The thing my uncle taught me was to be very trustworthy.
Yes.
And not where, like they say, chichi pole, or they gossip thing. When somebody entrusts you with an information, you should be able to keep that information to yourself.
Integrity.
Because integrity, yes, something happened. And so my uncle called me in the room. He said, John, if someone entrusts you with their information and so on, it is not your business to go and tell another person about it, because it creates problems. And well, that, of course, I should have known, which I didn't know, but I took that as a lesson. And that lesson has traveled with me. It has grown with me to this day. And I guess that's why people trust me in the way they do. And it took me a while to realize that.
You were in Liberia as a young man, as a child, all of that. How was your faith? Like, did you have faith in believing that there was a better life, that you were going to succeed regardless of what people labeled you as? You know how you used to be a wild child and you had to be sent off. How was your faith? What type of hope did you have or not?
Well, my faith was strong because I've been a Catholic from very early age, you know. And as I went to school, of course, during the time we pray every day, every morning, and give allegiance to the flag and all of that. But my faith was strong because I pray. So sometimes people think, they look at a person and think he's not a Christian, or he's not that person that's fit for or had any belief, you know, Christianity or so on. But yes, I've been a Catholic from a very early age. Even before I knew that my parents were Catholic.
Yeah.
Before they transitioned to other denominations.
Yeah.
You know, but my faith was strong. I pray every time for long life and the growing up of the rest of the other children, so that they all come out much better out of the environment, and we all did.
I want to touch back on my grandfather, and like, for me and my siblings, we never had the pleasure of meeting our grandparents because they were in Liberia and we were here, right? But we had the pleasure of hearing stories. And so while my dad is, he communicated that my grandfather was not educated, but he was a very skillful man. He had a lot of skills and knowledge. So you want to kind of touch on that a little bit?
Oh yeah. He was seafaring and he was a fisherman. Well, seafaring, they went on the ship I guess it was seasonal or whatever, so time, and they would go and come back. So now when they come back, they bring some clothes. That's how we got our clothing and so on, But however, my father, oh yes, he was very, very much there for me, in as much as he took me to my uncle. In fact, that was one of his favorite brothers, So they were always together. And he made sure that he brought fish and other stuff for us at the house. And also, he helped to buy my books, as well as my uncle was paying my tuition. So he was very, very supportive of me, growing up in another environment and whatnot. So my mom was the same thing, My mom was very, very supportive because she was always wondering how I was doing and so on. And I visited her most of the time because she had the other two boys there with her, Nat and Joe. So they were coming up. But they were very, very supportive in addition to what my uncle did for me to this point.
So we were talking about your dad. What is your dad's name? My grandfather. What is your dad's name?
Well, his name is Robert Satya Karpeh. So I'm surprised I wasn't named that. You named me
Robert,
John.
and your name is John. Where did John come from?
Karpeh, I guess one of the English names. So, yeah, John Woto Karpeh. That's what I have. But Robert Satya Karpeh.
Satya. And Satya is obviously it's a crew name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any meaning that you can think of?
I gotta research that.
Okay, no problem. But Robert Satya Karpeh. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Did you talk about your tribe, the crew tribe? You kind of brushed over it, but for those who are familiar with the culture, what tribe do you represent?
I represent the crew tribe.
Can you speak crew?
Of course. I can speak a little bit of it. I spoke it fluently when I left for America, but because there was hardly anybody around to speak it, it vanished until, I started getting people around that helped me to...
He never taught his kids.
Well, how would you do that? And it was quite difficult for you to talk yourself.
Do you want to leave for people something in crew before we transition to America?
I don't want to... Not forever. How you all doing? How you feeling?
So what was that? Say it again. Break it down. Let's break it down.
I don't want to... How you doing?
Don't do it. I was going to try to Okay. We'll leave it at that. Now let's go on to America. Alrighty. So now we're going to take it to America. We're going to speak about my dad's transition and his journey. I always talk about the movie Coming to America. It's a very silly movie, but yet it's a very great movie. I love it, right? But I always say I want to tell the real Coming to America story as it relates to the experience and everything.
Yeah, my impression of America was, when they used to say that all the cables, the electric wires were all underground and whatnot. You won't see any kind of wire running across the street and so on. But I thought that was funny, I thought it was very funny until I got here, But when I got here, it was a different story. So the place, what impressed me per se is that when I came to Charlotte was like a country town. A country town per se, it was similar to that of Monrovia, how you find some of the homes and whatnot. But it was no different. It took me about 2 or 3 months before I realized I was in America.
Oh.
I think it was the fact that I couldn't see my old friends and familiar faces or places. That's how come then I realized I was in America,
Yeah.
or when I started going to other places.
Yeah, it's kind of like starting a new school, but it's to start a new country, right? So you're going into a place where you don't know anybody. But you did know one or maybe two people, right? Because the reason why you were here is because you had someone come ahead of you and help you pave the way. So you want to talk about that experience?
Yeah, that experience is very exciting. Because Evan Brown, cause in fact, he and I went to elementary school together, junior high, high school, and whatnot. But then when he told me about Charlotte, he said, John, America is not an easy place. You got to work hard to survive, to make it. So that was a lesson for me. I mean, it was not anything derogatory. For some people, it will be, say, oh, maybe he didn't want me to come, he discouraging me.
Just being honest.
But yeah, he was honest to me, and that's what I needed to know. And to this day, I'm experiencing the same thing. I'm experiencing just that, So I got here, seeing the place, and then when he started taking me around, I started seeing some familiar faces, and made me to realize where I was in another place with new friends. You got to make start life all over. It wasn't easy, but yes, we managed it, and that was a big experience at the beginning.
So you're in America, you're getting adjusted, you're going to school, you're working, you're DJing. We can go into so much. I'm trying to figure out what angle to go, but I guess I want to talk about raising your family in America. And specifically, because of course we're talking about Father and Father's Day, because not only did my parents raise us, they helped to raise our cousins. They helped to raise, we call community cousins, because they're family friends that were like family. Literally, the Liberians created a little Liberia in America. Each city, as people migrated from Liberia, had a community. I'm not even talking about a Liberian association, a formal association. I'm just speaking about a community. I want you to go into raising your family within a community, how you brought the culture to America and created a community.
Well, in fact, the Liberian Association, the Liberian community, really started almost like when I got here. Of course, they were here, but they were not together like, let's say, this is a Liberian Association or whatever.
Yeah, it was just a community.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we're living in a certain area, the West Boulevard, Parker Heights,
yeah.
and the what do you call the place? Kings Park,
and then
Sandhurst, and all that. But right within that little circle,
that was Liberia.
That was the Liberian haven, And that where most of the party used to happen. Of course, we transitioned other places, but that was the main place. Because right in the corner there was a little place there. There was a little hall there that we had our, social and whatnot. But most of the parties were in-house. But what really started was Lance and Edwin Brown approached me. They had an idea of creating a community, a Liberian community, where everybody would come together in a meeting, just in case something happened, we all come together and fit in. Yeah, so they brought that idea to me and found out how I felt about it, and then asked me to convene a meeting or call a meeting for us to discuss it. And so that's how we started, and I was able to call a meeting. And people came and we put the idea forward. And that's how we started. It started as a Liberian Student Association, when we were going on. But then thereafter we realized that it was not everybody was not in school.
Yeah.
So we took that student out and left it as a Liberian Association. And it brought in more crowd, and so on.
So it looks like you guys had strategy. Right, because you were really putting thought into this, because people put stuff together and they're just like, oh, whatever, but you guys were building, and through the years it evolved. So you want to kind of talk a little bit more about how all of that evolved?
Well, we organized the association then, and we started to go into the campaigning to elect our first president. That was very exciting, very, very exciting. So we have Peter Karpeh, we have Patrick Flomo, of course, few other guys, you know. It's funny, but we went with the campaign.
Yeah,
When we
long
had
story short.
yeah, and we had debates. But the thing about it, in fact, one of the group here that very instrumental in the local chapter coming up was the Nima Association, the Nima group, the Nima boys. They were very, very into it, you know. So we're running this campaign and so on. When I didn't want to really be president or so on, but the way it was going, Peter Karpeh was running, and Patrick Flomo was running. Peter Karpeh had his vice president. I think it was one of the bids, you know. And Patrick was still struggling to get somebody, but Peter was running with the whole thing, and he would have been president anyway by acclamation in a way. But then I decided to join Patrick on his ticket to be his vice president. So we had a debate and everything.
It was like a formal process.
A formal process, yes. And so the election was in a meeting, you know, secret ballot. But anyway, after everything, when they thought Peter was going to win, so after the voting, it was tied. The votes were tied. So the thing about it, of course, Peter was before he was appointed chairperson to run the association until that time. But when it came to that time, he had to sit back for somebody else to run to head the meeting. So that chairperson was the one that broke the tie, and they broke it in favor of Peter Karpeh, and he became the president.
He was the first president.
He was the first president of the local association. But then from there, we elected board members, and all of those, you know, board members, where of course I was a board member. Yeah, so we organized board members and so on. We became member of ULA, which is the main chapter, the main body of Liberian Association in the Americas. You know, so we used to convene in every state depending on where it will go. That was Maryland, Baltimore, New York, and
so real quick, EULA was more of a supported, organizing body. When I say supported, it was supported financially, but what you guys created, it wasn't like a nonprofit or a LLC or anything. It was just you guys coming together and bringing your resource to create.
I think then it was. Maybe now it is that.
Okay.
But so we had to pay $300 every year
to EULA. Okay, so you did have that support.
That kind of support.
Okay.
Yeah, so we used to go for meetings, and after work Friday night we'll go drive to convene that Saturday morning for meeting, and we're driving back Sunday to come, you know, and so on. But it went on, so that we don't get the kind of accommodation when we go up there. So we decided to host the convention here one year. I think it was 79. I think it was 78 or 79 when we hosted it here. So the plan here was to make sure to give them the certain hospitality, you know, unlike what we used to experience when we went up there. So we decided to host them, feed them, and, you know, meet them wherever they will be when they come to Charlotte. So we have people to pick them up from the airport, from the train station, from 85, from 77. And then we also ask every a member of the community to host a member or two, you know, unless they want to go to the hotel. But most of them were hosted. And that happened. So we gave them lunch, we gave them breakfast, and we gave them dinner. So, but the thing, after the convention, that's when most of them started moving here because they were kind of cheap, you know, compared to where they were. And so they started coming here. But the support of the local chapter is very, very important. And I didn't think that we were getting that kind of support from EULA and so on, that we decided to kind of, discontinue our membership with EULA. So we needed to concentrate on our local members. Liberia is not our place per se. Until we can take care of ourselves and strong, and we can take care of people in Liberia. But the notion here, the main reason here was most people then in EULA were making their way to go get position in Liberia.
Gotcha.
That's why it was.
Gotcha.
So they were not paying much attention to the local chapter.
Gotcha.
So that's why we decided to get away
and focus more on building that
thing.
community.
Yes.
So much more as it relates to the formation and just the systems and everything that you guys did as an association. But I wanted you to tell a little bit about that story, because I want to paint the picture of Liberians. Like, clearly, Liberians aren't perfect, right? But as it relates to the mindsets, as it relates to the community, right? Like, whenever there's something, whether it's a wedding, a funeral, a birthday, a christening, whatever it is, the community comes together. And growing up in America within the Liberian community, that's what I've always experienced, whether it's with the association or not. So they're, just very resourceful. Without any support, you're new here to this country, yet you're creating a resource without even having the resources yourself. You want to talk about that a little bit? Like what does that come from? Because it's so consistent across the board and through the years.
Well, it comes from the fact that we are all willing to help one another. And when you come to America, you got to have a job, So we all have a little job, but at the same time, you want to help the other people that, can avoid. But we're very, very supportive. Very, very supportive. We collect money to help whoever maybe getting married or funeral.
Everybody
or
come
whatever,
together.
come together.
Yeah.
So most especially there were two local groups here, clubs, which were the men's club and the women's club. So it was like when something happened, the women's club did the cooking, they collected the women and to do the cooking, and they assigned the men to bring the drinks and so on. And that's how it was. And it worked very well. It went very, very well.
What's interesting about that is you had the Liberian Association. Then, in addition to that, you had the Liberian Men Association, or club, the Women Club, and then you had other tribal groups that had clubs. Like, it was just a lot of breakouts.
Yeah, it was where you call it the clique, okay? But the cliques, very important. You don't leave them out, because the Liberian Association needs the clique. The clique is because those people, they are more unified.
Because they're coming from certain groups,
and they respect one another because they're coming from a certain area of Monrovia, Liberia,
that's what I meant.
before they came here. So they know one another and they can interact with one another.
Yeah.
So it's not so much of that they want to be by themselves. So this is where the Liberian Association or group needs those people. So then with the men's club and the women's club, that's where the association used to go to these people and, designate them to do these things. So they fill that void that's between there, or help, to organize things that the Liberian Association would do. At the same time, it is the Liberian Association doing it because they are part of.
Yeah, still, it's just
group,
painting the picture of the dynamics of it.
This is why it's good to go and get and go after these guys to bring them within to help.
Yeah.
But if you put them down, say, oh, they this or they that and so on, of course, they can break it.
Sorry, we're outside.
They can break away.
Yeah.
So that's where sometimes the problem is, but the NEMA group, the NEMA boys were very helpful in coming to help the association.
To build that
Yes,
foundation.
yeah.
That's
Like
good.
be there, like the one quiz, and so on,
Okay.
Yeah.
There's so much to talk about. I'm just trying to get everything in without this being too long, but it's some other key points that I want to cover. So when my dad came to, when you, talking about your dad like he's not here, when you came to America, Uncle Edwin, who's my godfather, is one of his best friends, he helped him to come. And then you went to school. You stayed with him. You went to Johnson C. Smith, actually. I think that's important to call out. What did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I came here, I lived with Edwin Brown, his wife, then Linda Brown. I lived with them for about a year, where they told me I didn't have to pay anything. All I do is save my money to be able to move on my own. The exciting part about it is that Edwin picked me up almost every day from school to take me to work without missing a day, without me even being late, And the wife was very supportive. She would entertain his friends when they came to see him if you weren't there, But that was the thing, taking me to school every day, save my every time when I started a job. He found me a job. We were all working to the same place almost. But it started working at Dobb House. He carried me and I rode with other guys home. And I took the bus to go to school every morning.
Yeah.
And then I graduated from Central Piedmont. Then I went to Johnson C.
Oh,
Smith.
you went to CP first. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I went to CP, and from CP, that's when I went to Johnson C. Smith. The funny thing there too, I was supposed to be doing computer science, programming. But hey, if you come in this country and you got to work and so on, and the time not there, you got to make some adjustments.
Yeah.
So that was one of the adjustments I had to make. So I had to go into something that will help me through. So I did business administration, specializing in marketing, and that's how come I came on. But the funny thing here, when I was living with Edwin at July 4th celebration, while I was DJing, of course, I invited Mildred then to come.
And real quick, my dad, he got excited and he skipped on. He's talking about my mom, how he met. So we jumped from school to that, but I'm going to let him finish with just an FYI.
Yeah. During that time, I was DJing. So I was the only DJ in Charlotte and whatnot. So she came to that little July 26th, July 4th cookout at Edwin's place. So she sat down there and I was playing the music, and she asked me if I wanted a certain song was playing. Of course, she used to like music too.
And my mother could dance too.
Yeah.
She liked to dance.
So she asked me if I wanted to dance. So I said, yeah, okay. At the same time, I was DJ. The song was playing. We danced the song, and we danced from there. I think that was the beginning of something that that went for a good while.
She was marking her territory for the other ladies that were there.
Exactly. But
now wait, were you was still at Johnson C. Smith then?
Yeah, I was still at Johnson C. Smith.
Okay.
Yeah,
so I see why you bridged that story together.
So
okay.
That's what happened.
Okay.
So that's how that part of the relationship
Real quick,
started.
so you were DJing, but you came from behind the DJ stand to dance.
Well, she asked me to dance. So I had to go and dance, because I was walking around and so
you
on.
see why I wanted you to call out at the beginning that you like to dance? Because that's how you met my mama. But anyway, I love that story. And each year when that story is told, there's a different piece that's added. I would love to talk more about my mom in this conversation, but since we had a conversation about my mom, but this is honoring my dad, but she is a part of his story. So, I'm glad that you did bring that up. You had your family established. Just when you talk about community, and I'm just trying to tell the various aspects of community, because when it's family, that's also community, right? But just how you guys paved the way. So Uncle Edwin helped pave the way for you. My mom and Auntie Eva, someone helped with them. And then as you guys were building your family, you were having other family members that were coming from Liberia that you guys were helping and supporting. So when I say father, you weren't just a father to us, you were a father to our cousins, even to your older cousins, like you were a father figure. Let's talk about that a little bit as far as how you're seen, how you're respected, how you're looked upon, how people confide in you, what you talked about with your uncle, mentioned the integrity. Just talk about
trust
that.
and whatnot. I guess it's natural that people see it. Because the way they looked at me and the mentorship and whatnot, she asked about. So I had to ask one of the young guys, I said, why you treat me a little differently than you treat the other people? I see the way. He said, Papi, it's the way you carry yourself. So the way that I carry myself, I think is very, very important, to the livelihood or the growing up of other
That's
other
a
people.
good segue into the mentorship aspect of the community, right? And bridging the gap and passing the torch. It's hard to influence people that you don't respect. It's hard to influence people that don't respect you, that don't like you. So even if it's something that they may not necessarily want to do or listen to, because they respect you, they will listen. And so in Liberia, you played soccer. In Charlotte, growing up, you and our uncles and just the other men of the community, we would go out to the field and watch you play soccer. And I just look at the generations as that has changed. And still you have the old school versus the new school, but the generation has picked that up and they're continuing that. And it's so much more than a game. It's a mentorship, it's a community, it's a family, it's faith, it's all of that. But I see how the guys look at you when you go out there. And I actually also see how you look at them when you go out there. Kind of talk about that. Not even so much about the soccer, because it is about the soccer, but what do you see when you look at the younger generation and that's where you were, and now it's a whole nother, community of young men that are doing it?
Well, the thing here is you gotta look within yourself first. The things that our children do are replicate of what we did. That's our the way that we went or the way we grew up. That's our habits, what the children pick up. And that's what we're doing. But we say, the rule is this. So, it's not so. So when I see people, children especially, I think of myself from way back, the way I came about. Not even children. People, somebody need to be talked to. They want to talk to somebody, or they want somebody to talk to them.
To see them.
And see them. And it's very important. So because at this point, I think of my life right now, I've learned a whole lot from the past that I try to move forward with it and spread. So things that I know, I learned, I like to, pass it on to other people and make sure that they understand what is happening. So that's how I go about, doing and try to mentor.
Yeah.
But some of them see it, some of them don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you talk about generation and legacy. A lot of times when people talk about legacy, they think about, their kids, what came out of their womb. And obviously that's a part of legacy too, right? But legacy is just what you're leaving behind for the next generation as a whole. So whoever you can impact, it matters. So I personally think my dad has done a great job in doing that, not just with us, but people within the community, even outside of the community. People that he meets, he has impact on. Right? I even want to mention Rodney. So Rodney is a good friend of the family, but we haven't even known him long, and that's like our big brother. But it's the impact my dad had on him. They used to do work together. But yeah, do you realize how quick of an impact you had on him? Like, you don't see it, but I don't get it.
I think it's vice versa. He had an impact on me too.
Of course.
In that, you see, sometimes the way you put yourself out there is the way people look at you. So when he came into where we worked, we started a conversation. And I mean, it's just his presence that made me to open up to him. As to, I first have to let him know who I am. You know, I want him to believe in me, trust me.
Trust you.
Yes.
Yeah.
In that case, we'll be able to go on with the work the best way possible.
Yeah.
And that's how it started.
Yeah.
So if you can, in fact, that's how I go about what I do today. You know,
You're
I trust
authentic.
people. Yeah, I trust people first. You know, until otherwise.
Well, what I want to say about you is you're authentic. And when I say you're authentic, you're presenting yourself just as you are, right?
I agree with you, and I think I'm a realist. That's how I
same
tell
thing.
myself. Yeah.
Realist.
And
Okay.
from way back, because of things that I see, I do, and I compare, it's quite different. Until like we were talking about Rodney when he came in, I had to prove myself to him in a way for him to see who I am. Then we can go from there. Of which I did. So I opened up to him with a conversation, and then thereafter he also opened up to me with his conversation, and that's how we got
Over
into
time, we just
that's how
built.
we got into one another.
Yeah.
But
But you've definitely had an impact on them. We don't have time to go into all of that, but I'm just within the Liberian community, outside the Liberian community, with the babies, with the Omas, Opas, he just has impact, and it's really nice to see. Like growing up, if I'll be honest, when my dad want to give us advice or tell us this and that, it's kind of like you feel like it's quarreling and just keep talking. But in hindsight, of course, as life is, we realize what he was instilling in us and teaching us was necessary skills and perspectives. And so we see him doing that now in the community, and it's just nice to see because people are actually listening and they respect him for it. So.
But that's the same thing you're doing in the community now. What we used to do, mama and daddy, and that's how people
That's
are looking
true.
at you guys and saying,
That's true.
it makes me for me, yes, it makes me feel proud when people say your daughter did this. Well, which one? Oh, Tanya, or Frankie, or Jonette, and whatnot. So that makes me
course.
proud.
Yeah.
That makes me proud.
Good.
Yeah.
Glad we can make you proud. So I want to talk about family life and you being a father figure within at home. It's funny. We had a conversation. We meaning my sisters and I about our mom, and we're speaking about my mother in past tense. For those who don't know us, she passed away 5 years ago. Right? And so we have very special, deep, loving memories of her that I'm proud that we can continue to tell her story. And her story continues to have impact on us. But as it relates to the roles in the house, when we tell that story, my mom was like, she was like the leader / the manager, the director. So everything she said goes. Daddy, he was the CEO. So he was the good guy because all of the no's came from my mom, but all of the yeses came from my mom too. So when we would have an attitude with our mom because she said no, he walking around like, he had nothing to do with that, which he probably did, right? But it's interesting with the dynamics growing up because our mom was hands-on. Our dad was hands-on as well, but he was a provider. He was the overseer. He made sure that the house was taken care of, the bills were taken care of, and that we were taken care of, that we felt loved, right? And so one story I want to tell for those who don't know, I know those who know us know this story, so you're going to hear it again. But my dad, he's one that I would always want to go everywhere with. Not that I didn't love my mom because she taught me so much, but my dad loved the streets. And that's why I love the streets to this day. So Daddy, talk about that as it relates to me waking up early every Saturday morning, getting dressed. Everybody else sleep, but I'm up waiting in position to go grocery shopping. My dad did all the grocery shopping. But let's talk about that experience and me coming along with you.
So I think now you understand what I said earlier, that the attitude of the children
Oh
reflects that
yeah,
of the parents.
yeah.
But again, the story that you're telling, I didn't quite understand it until when you were really explaining it to me how you used to get up early.
Yeah.
Because I used to wonder how you know I was going. So,
Yeah.
You know, and that time I stayed in the bed and didn't want to go, you know. But yeah,
Tired Frankie.
that was the thing. Because I used to go shopping on Saturday. Well, I never went to one grocery store.
We went around the whole city.
And I would say around the whole city. Where
Yes, we did.
You have Food Lion, you have Park and Shop.
We used to start
then
Park
you
and
have,
Shop, then Food Lion.
Yeah. But so, of course, it was a.
Wayne's, yep.
Yeah, Wayne's. But you got the things you wanted, and the little bit of money you get, you well spend it. That was the thing. But I didn't know that you were always prepared. Because when I got ready to go, Daddy, can I go? I said, well, come on. I said, well, what time? Time still sleeping.
It was funny
that want to go.
he was the CEO, but my mom, as the manager, sometimes she'll say yes, sometimes she'll say no. But he was just so focused on shopping, he didn't even pay attention to that.
No, I really didn't. You know, so I was just bringing the things that needed. But look, in life, you know, we all look for different things in life. But to this day, my thing in life is survival. Survival. To make ends meet. You know, be able to feed myself or the family with the daily needs of every day and so on, you know. So material things is not a thing, you know. But you have to live as they go. Well, we got to dress up and whatnot, but if this thing is clean and whatever, I can stay away a week or 2 weeks from there. But yes, that's so true. I went everywhere, and then the funny thing about it, so then when she started going with Mama, when they get to a certain place, she would say, Mama, we are daddy, we pass this way, we pass that way. So it was so good that she knows her way around Charlotte much faster and so on.
Yeah,
you know.
definitely. There were a lot of benefits from it. We're going to touch on a little bit more as it relates to family life, and then we're going to move on to the last topic. But one thing that I used to love, you know, as far as my dad growing up in the house, is the fact that he was a DJ. One thing that I didn't love was the fact that he was a DJ, because on the weekends, you are awakened by music, African music blasting, right? But we got used to it. But one of my most fondest memories of him as a DJ and growing up as a father, every Christmas, we are awakened to music blasting, but it's African Christmas music. So it just put the whole house in the mood, and we would get up and get dressed, come down, Mama making breakfast, we have our prayer, then we open up. It was just a nice time. So when you talk about music and your love for music, just talk about your love for music and how you spread that love even as we grew up, you know, as a family.
Well, my love for music started way back from Liberia. The little community we're living in, the little area, Benson Johnson Street. We had another family next door, the Atokas. They Kwasi, Nad, you know, they were the DJ, you know, Harry, of course, Kwasi and Nad. Kwasi was the main person, you know, Lawrence Atoka was the main person, the DJ. So they used to go out DJ every time, DJ. So, I mean, I used to admire it, but the time came when they were winding down in that social activity. It so happened that my cousin then studied abroad, and when he went back home, he took a amplifier with him and some music albums, you know. So I was in his room when he came abroad, and I used to play the music every now and then. I started enjoying playing different kind of jazz and whatnot. So as they were going down with that activity, that's how come I pick it up, you know, and I started doing the same thing, and I started DJing. Used to DJ for schools, and so in fact, I was in that area, an area where it was almost like a crossroad for all the students. I used to cut right through there, and as they passed through, my music was barking, you know, and whatnot. So, but the funny thing here again, I'm still coming. I will come to the America part. DJ Jack today, okay, was a little young guy in the area. He used to come in the yard and listen to music and so on and say, well, I never noticed that he was noticing me as a DJ. So, but my assistant DJ was Austin. I used to Uncle Austin. I used to carry him to set up. So I would set up the music and then go to work. And I tell him, I need to introduce him to the host. I say, well, this is my little cousin. He's going to take care that I come, but make sure to feed him, because if you don't feed him, he'll play the flip side of all the music. So why I said that, I don't know. When I come back, man, that boy is well fed.
Yes.
And he's happy for me to take over. So that's how I started DJing. But then when I came abroad to Charlotte, it was almost the same thing. So I landed here and there was no DJ. When there was a function, I was the only person. So I would go and get my stuff and go and play for whatever, and so on. And my other influence here for music then was Morris George.
Yeah.
So that's how come I got into a different kind of music, Because he trust me that he would bring a whole suitcase of music and tell me to select out of that, of which he doesn't do for any other person, And that's how I started going. And I was DJing, going from place to place. Then, well, of course, AB were the two.
The late ABY.
Yeah, the late ABY. We were the two DJs in the era. He was in the Salisbury era. I was in Charlotte. Yeah. But we used to work together all the time.
Yeah.
But music is my passion, and I developed it into a business.
Yes, so. And he was a DJ from, before we were born up until 62, 60.
Well, yeah, I think 62. Yeah,
then he retired. Nobody believed him when he said he was retired because he would keep reappearing.
After my 60th birthday, I never did any DJ.
Yeah, I think you did one for a funeral. It was you and some others.
Yeah.
But to his point, he wasn't doing it like he was before.
But music, oh no, that's my heart. I love music today. So the thing about music, and which a lot of us don't know, it can transform you. It can change your mood. Depending on what mood you're in, if you go into your music, play your music, it will change your mood. You see the difference.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm into music.
Yeah.
Even today, when the guys playing the music, I hear it, I go to them and ask them, I didn't go to electronic school to be able to put my stuff together. I learned from different people. My buddy out of New York, DJ Bechtel.
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, he was my supplier of music when you were working to Stern Music. People used to wonder how I got all my music. But he supplied me with music in the Charlotte area. Yeah. And it was great.
That's good.
Great. In fact, he taught me some of the things, that I learned putting the music, the set together and whatnot, which made it easy for me, So, there were times that I was looking for someone to take over from me, of which I didn't know where to turn.
Now there's a whole other generation.
Yeah, a lot of generations. But now I didn't know BY, have been watching me as to what I do. In fact,
that's DJ BZ for those.
DJ BZ. Yeah. Not knowing when he told me once that he died it, told him to watch the way I did it. But I think his first function, maybe if it were his first function, was just something like a cook or a gathering. And he was in a basement playing. Where I wasn't there that time, my wife was there. So she heard the music playing downstairs. Well, she thought I was the one playing. I guess it's because of the way he was playing the music, So now until she went down there and then saw BY playing, she said, oh, BY, I told you that was John down here playing, And to this day, it's a very good DJ. I guess it's the same place, the same way DJ Jack, and they all gave me compliment for that, and so on. It's
legacy. It's legacy in different generations, and in addition to BY, you have I don't even want to start naming because I can't name everybody, but there's a lot of great, and we're speaking specifically within the Liberian community. Obviously, there's DJs outside of it, but within our community, there's a lot of great DJs have come up. And what's interesting is I've been a part of the generations of DJs, and so it's just great to see. So we can go on and on about music. Like, we can go on and on about everything, but this kind of shows everyone why we, meaning my sisters and I, love music so much. And it's not just music, but African music. Now, I love all music, but there's something about African music that just does something different to my heart. And I want my dad's opinion. We can go long into this, but let's keep this short. But I refuse to call it Afrobeats. Even the songs that are titled Afrobeats, I still call it African music because that's what I grew up on, and I don't want the essence of the culture watered down because we're trying to fit into society, right? But real quick, I said real quick because when we talk about music, my dad will go on and on, but what are your thoughts on how music, and not just music as a whole, but like specifically African music, how it's evolved, the sound, the vibe? What are your thoughts on it? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you not? Like, what is that?
What, Afrobeat?
Well, yeah, Afrobeats. You know how the African music has evolved.
Well, the thing about it, I love all kinds of music.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, how it comes about or how it's created. The Afrobeats are creation of beats and so on, you know, infusion of beats and whatnot, you know. Well, I call it sheet music and all of those things. But African music is by ear. Most of them by ear.
The instruments.
The instruments, the people, they have the talent to do that. The guitar, the drums, the horns, and percussion, and all of those things there, you know. But
like when you talk about soukous and
soukous, that's the African music.
Dumbolo, I think that's how you say it.
Domolo.
Yeah.
Those are all different kind of African dance. So African music makes you move. You shake your body. You rock the body. You know.
How do you move? Show us. I don't know how to.
Nah, I can't do that. I'm sitting back. So if I want to floor here, we can do that. But no, I mean, I admire the other kind of music, the people that are doing that, but I just love African music. It's like, even when I was doing my DJ days, people used to complain, oh, you play too much of African music and blah, blah, blah. Of course, that's my culture. But the thing about it, that's the music that rock the flow.
Yeah.
It fills the flow.
Yeah.
So, nothing wrong with playing the R&B or the hip hop and whatever.
Yeah.
But that few people want to listen to it. So it's always good to switch the music. And it is the DJs that really make the music popular. So the way we play the music is the way that certain kind of music.
One thing, because we were talking about the evolution of the music. So when you talk about legacy, BY, he comes from the generation where he was listening to you play, and now he's playing for the Afrobeat generation. And the other DJs do this too, but I'm speaking specifically about BY because, you know, he learned a lot from you. But what I like about BY is he takes the Afrobeats and he also takes the traditional African music and he bridged that gap. So I love Afrobeats. I just refuse to call it Afrobeats. I call it African music. But it's a blend of both generations, which even enhances the experience even more. So
yeah, most of the other DJs, they do that as well. But you know, it's the thing. So the thing about it, sometimes I feel bad.
I didn't know what he was about to say about the other DJs. I was like,
no, the other DJs, they do it. You know, I go the other day, I go there and say something to them, play this kind of music, you see the difference. You know, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Yeah,
but
that's
not that particular area. But at another time, I see them doing it. So African music is what makes the body, I mean,
it just makes you,
it's
a whole vibe.
You see? I mean, I love music. I like to rock my body when I'm dancing on the floor. You gotta shake everything. You play the music, we'll do that.
Okay. Well, that's look, like I said, we could go on and on about that.
So don't ever challenge me on the floor.
But we're gonna end this in the dance. We're gonna end this in the dance. But this conversation again, like I said, is called The Faith of a Father. A conversation with John Karpeh, my daddy. in honor of Father's Day and in honor of telling the continuation of telling my story, telling his story, telling a piece of the story as it relates to the culture. And so I want to touch on faith specifically. He talked about faith. We were born and raised, I keep saying we, my sisters and I were born and raised as Catholics. My dad is Catholic, my mom was Baptist. So we we had both influences as we grew up, right? And so, when you talk about faith, especially in this season, faith doesn't look the same for everyone. Faith doesn't wear the same clothes. Faith doesn't necessarily go the same places. But we all, if you're a person of faith, if you're a Christian, you all are supposed to have your specific and unique relationship with the Father, right? And so my dad is one of those where, growing up, I'm not saying that he wasn't a man of faith, but because of the box we put faith in and how we thought faith was supposed to look, we may have thought like my mom was more of faith than my dad. So I wanted you to talk about just faith, and not even about so much the denomination, but your relationship with God, your personal relationship with God.
Well, I think you get that part right, because my personal relationship with God is very strong.
Mm-hmm.
I don't show it per se that oh yes, I'm this, I'm that. There are two things I don't talk much about or argue or in conversation: that religion and politics. The politics, I don't. Because to each his own. Yeah, you got to give that person a respect. Sometimes it's the way things are done, where you criticize, but at the same time, ain't much one can do about it, because that's how that person sees it, and that's how that person does it. So ain't much to do. As for me, yes, I pray. I pray. When I'm walking, I pray. Eating, I pray. I go into this where Lucky Shanko, whom I was am his manager then, he made a gospel song, and we said, no matter where you are, whether you are in the club or you are this and that, I didn't catch it quite well, but then later on I started saying, that, but that's what I do.
That's the thing. There's no separation.
Yeah, faith.
There's no separation.
Your faith is very important.
Yeah.
So your faith is your faith, and you got to have faith in other people as well to move along, and that's how it was. I have faith in my wife, in taking care of these girls, taking care of the children. And so it was the time, like she's been saying, was the time that I had to say, she takes care of them, whatever, we can discuss it, and then she can go back to them.
She could be the bad guy or the good guy.
And then tell them how it is, but then say, this is what we came up. She did a great job, in bringing them up. Of course, I'm the father figure of the house, make sure that I did my part of it. But she did a very, very good part in those things. Because she always reminded me as to what to do. I mean, she asked about faith. So she always reminded me to pray. And prayer, very, very important. And those were some of the things that I did. But I mean, I have a very strong faith, and I don't show it per se. And I don't.
Can I disagree with you on that? Because even when you talk about showing, it's unlearning and relearning. When you talk about showing faith, you think it has to, and I'm not saying necessarily you, I'm just saying like the perception. You have to walk around, go to church, holding the Bible, praying, walking the fine line, not messing up. That's not necessarily showing faith. That's a part of it. But when you talk about showing faith, so what we just described in this conversation, that's why I calling it the faith of a father. You talked about how people respect you, how people listen to you, how you influence people, how you inspire people, how you are passing the baton, how you are mentoring. I can go on and on. That's all a part of discipleship. That's all a part of being God's representation on earth. and making a difference. And it's done outside of the church, right?
Sure.
So it is church.
Of course.
You know, and I'm so passionate with this because there are so many people who are making impact as it relates to faith, as it relates to making a change that's not done within church, but they see it as a separation. You're actually probably doing more because you're a street team.
Yeah, because you don't. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes you don't see it.
Yeah.
It's the faith that you guys have in me that have carried me this. Thus far. You know, you, Jonette, Frankie, Tanya, and all of those. That's what carried me.
Yeah.
You know, being a widower, it was very hard. You know, that's been hard. But the way you guys are carrying me, taking care of me, protecting me, like I would say, you know, that's my way of saying it. You guys are protecting me, and I appreciate it very, very much. Nothing. I mean, I am myself. I can still live my life, but yet, that's the daddy figure that you're trying to protect.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong.
and just to be clear and specific, when my dad says protector, is not like a bodyguard.
No.
We cover him in prayer.
Yeah.
We keep him covered, drenched, surrounded in prayer. So it's like stepping in and carrying that torch, because our mom plays such a heavy role as it relates to warfare prayer and covering us. And in her absence, it's kind of like we feel some of that pressure and that blow. And that's a whole nother conversation that we will probably talk about, because it's deep.
Yeah.
It's deep. We're going to end on this last segment of faith. And, you know, when we talk about faith, there's levels to this thing. There are generations to this thing. There are different perspectives. And as you reach different levels, and the way you reach different levels is just keep living, keep experiencing life. So my dad talked about his wife, our mom, who passed away 5 years ago. I thought I knew what faith was. I didn't know what faith was until I lost my mom. I knew what faith was, but I didn't really know what faith was. I had the foundation to still stand on, but all the other just stuff, that's a better word, stuff that comes along with it, that's man-made, that stuff is what God wanted me to push out. Because that stuff didn't help me in my time of grief, right? And so with my mom passing, and then last year I had a big assignment, is what I call it, aka cancer. I had breast cancer, which I smashed, assignment complete, but that was another faith building. As I was going into the cancer treatment, my dad caught COVID. And I didn't even know if I had COVID because I was around my dad. Like, it's just, it was just a lot back to back to back. And so I specifically want to hear from my dad as it relates to his faith and the evolvement and development and building of his faith through the life of grief, which we're still going through it. It just looks different because we've elevated through finding out, oh, your daughter has cancer. And of course, when you hear about cancer, everybody thinks the worst. Nobody necessarily immediately thinks the best. And then his own personal experience, which was scary. I think I was more afraid of my dad and COVID than I was dealing with my assignment. But just talk about that. How was that on you mentally? How did you build? How did you exercise everything you knew about faith and applied it?
Well, sometimes we all learn, and sometimes we develop certain things. But again, I would say this. Military, I always mention, well, say, fair, we always have to pray. Prayer changes things. She said, John, you will do well, you'll do better if you just pray about things, pray over things, you know, or you pray or go to church and whatnot. So it was a great impact, and I remember that. So again, that's what I mentioned earlier, the protection and the guardian of you guys taking care of me, and then you emphasize what that meant. If I were there by myself or whatever, it would have been a different thing. But
Well-
that was a big experience that I gained.
So one part about faith that I want you to communicate is, Mama helped you along, definitely. We helped you along. But let's go to that place when you had COVID and you had to be quarantined for a week by yourself when your breathing was getting kind of spotty and you weren't sure. Now, we were sure because God had already told us you were good. And I believe it because I know what he told me about my big assignment. But even in knowing it and seeing everybody around us passing away, you sitting there by yourself, Mama not there, we're not there. All you have is you and your father. Talk about that experience in, I like to say conversations, but it's prayer. But what type of conversations did you have with God? And how did he directly get you through that time to just be sane, to continue to move forth?
I think he was there for me. He was there for me. So I said my prayer every time and all the time. That conversation was great. That conversation, you could feel it sometimes, but there are times that we take things for granted.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be able to rely on him to carry you through, save you through the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
But I pray for healing every time,
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
And in addition to what you guys did,
Yeah,
Tyan,
of course.
Frankie, you, when you came by, Yeah, I don't know if I ever told you guys thank you for all of that. I mean, I can't stop saying it.
Yeah.
If it weren't for you guys, like you mentioned, you're on the old day. I guess it was a good thing. I mean, it was not anything bad that I didn't know about it. It probably would have a even bigger impact on my condition than anything else had I heard of it. But I still pray about it and make sure that I got well, and after the fact that you got well, and the way you handle it. So it's the way to go of it. So you got to be in relationship with the Lord to be able to handle anything, to get through whatever you need to get through.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what has helped me. But the COVID experience is a big experience. Sometimes when you experience something, you try to let other people know what it is, explain it. This is where I think sometimes people misunderstand the other person when they try to give some information. Where they figure that they know it, they know it all, they did that. Sometimes there are things that we don't know all of that we need to listen to people.
Yeah.
But my faith did carry me through.
Yeah.
With you guys' help and whatnot.
And we're just thankful that we both made it through. I made it through my big assignment. He made it through his. And we made it through by way of faith, by way of family, also by way of the community, because they definitely rally around my dad to
Yes,
support
the
him.
community was there.
Yeah.
The community was there. The
Yeah.
president and everybody else. A few people were really there. Like I said, I don't want to call names.
Yeah,
The community was there. Not many people knew that I was sick.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not a thing to put out there.
Absolutely
That
not.
make things worse.
Yeah.
Because I was talking here. That's why I don't like to call people when they are in a hospital sick and so on. Because you make their symptoms worse.
Depending on the mindset,
Yeah,
people
you-
put their fear
yeah.
on the faith that you're trying to have. So, but we're just thankful that we're alive and we're sitting here to record this video.
Exactly.
Getting a little chilly out here, but we've been having a really great conversation. Seems like we need a part 2 because that's a lot of stuff that we weren't able to cover. But overall, I just wanted you guys to get a little glimpse of, for those who don't know, of who my dad is, and to honor my dad for Father's Day. And even the men that he mentioned, I want to start calling out names, but I'm not. But some of them have been father figures to me, and a lot that they have not mentioned, and that's that community. And so I'm just thankful to still have my dad. I'm thankful to have had my mom. She's no longer here, but we still have our dad. And I want to tell the world publicly, while my dad is here, how proud we are of you, Daddy. of how you've just taken the baton and ran with it. Even, my dad is a man of faith, but my mom was, there's levels to it. She was deep in her faith, right?
Yeah.
And so he tried to play that role, not her, but tried to fill in that gap. And sometimes I used to laugh. This is when my mom first passed, because he'll try to say, "Oh, it'll be okay," or just do certain things. I can't even remember. And I would have really appreciated it, but I would laugh. I was like, "Oh, it's not the same." But he's trying so hard, and we will appreciate it because he didn't have to do all the additional things that he did. And so, Daddy, we on this Father's Day, even though this may or may not get aired on Father's Day specifically, but thank you for being an awesome person. And it's not even about, how people say, "Oh, my father better than yours, my mom," all of that. It's not even that. He's a really great person. Not just a great daddy to us, but he's a great person to society. So my prayer is that you will continue to cultivate that. My prayer is that you will walk confidently in that. My prayer is that you won't be timid about what everybody is saying. Stand up strong. Say it with your chest. Because that's how God sees you, and that's how God placed you on this earth. That's why God placed you on this earth. So it's a gift. So thank you for the gift that you are, not only to us, but to the world.
Thank you. You're welcome. I'll be frank with you. I have decided that I won't be quiet. I won't be timid.
Thank you.
Talk. I will mentor. I mean, people say he has wisdom. I like to listen to him.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I try to figure out what is it that they're talking about. What did I talk about so much that moved them?
Mm-hmm.
So this is how people are within me. So not be afraid to say certain things to people. But so usually what I say is the truth, and I will always go on that.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody say I talk too long. It's one time.
I'm about to tap him on the shoulder. We
They
supposed
say
to
I
be
talk
wrapping
too
up.
long, but so they say, well, yeah, some of the thing you talk is true. You're right about it.
Yeah.
So that's it. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. You guys are welcome. And thanks too for all that you all are doing for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. One thing that I want to mention in this conversation of the faith of the Father is, I'm highlighting my earthly father and our earthly fathers. But when you speak about the faith of the Father, the most important father of all fathers is Father God, as we say, but our Lord and Savior. And so when you think about Father's Day, when you think about having a covering, when you're thinking about faith, regardless if you have your father here on earth or not, know that you have a Father in heaven that loves you. Know that you have a Father that is always there. As much as I love my dad, as much I can call my dad at any time, and if it's in his will, he will drop what he's doing. But even in that time of waiting for him to come, I'm still by myself. There's a Father who is always there that I can call at any moment. He's there. So I just want to be sure to leave you guys with this message. In addition to the awesomeness of who we have here on earth in dads or mentors or whomever, know that there is a Father who's always there. Because sometimes what we do is we put too much pressure on each other, and we aren't God. Every day they're not going to have it. Every day they may not show up the same. So just understand the love of the Father, the faith of the Father. He's always there covering us. So I just want to be sure to mention that, because as much as I love my dad, I love my father more. Yes.
I agree with you.
Yes. Thank you everyone for tuning in. So many more conversations to come. I can't even list it out. Just stay tuned. But this conversation is the faith of a father. And I just realized we did not pray to open up, which we usually do. So we're going to close out in prayer. Before we close out in prayer, are there any quick last words you want to say or you want to leave everyone with, or even the fathers, like an encouraging message to the fathers?
Dads, take care of their children, be in their lives, visit them, get them, again, just take care of the children.
Show up.
Show up.
Yes. That's definitely a great part. But we're going to end in a prayer, and since this is the faith of a father, Daddy, do you feel comfortable in closing us out in a prayer?
I think you would say the prayer, Janet. You're powerful in it. So don't let me.
It ain't about my power. Just a quick little close.
Lord Heavenly Father, we thank you for
Jesus.
guiding us. We thank you for keeping us safe here today and give us safe travel as we go home. Pray that you continue peace in the world. Continue peace. Continue peace. With all of this, I pray through Christ our Lord.
Amen. See how much power there was in that prayer? But thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time, happy Father's Day, everybody.
Thank you. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you, Daddy.
You're welcome. So she still testing my faith.
What do you mean? I'm still testing your faith
It's
out.
gonna be prayer. It's gonna be prayer.
What? That's not testing your faith.
I said a prayer. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Bye. All righty. It is almost 11 o'clock at night. We are outside Uptown Charlotte, a socialite production / Janet Karpeh with my dad. What's your name, Daddy?
Oh, of course, John Woto Karpeh.
John Woto Karpeh. Don't forget the Woto. But anyway, we just had a really, really great conversation titled The Faith of a Father. Conversation with John Karpeh. This is in honor of Father's Day. This is in honor of a socialite production still telling the other parts of my story as it relates to my family, as it relates to my culture. How do you feel about the conversation? Did you enjoy talking about yourself?
Very much so. I could have said more about myself, but because of time frame, so I had to cut some of it short and then jump here and jump.
Yes.
But I think we can go another part 2 with this.
Yeah.
And then I can talk more about myself. But
Yeah.
my story, I'm glad that I have overcome the feelings in my story to where I am right now. Because before I couldn't even tell my story. It was always emotional. And I started telling it to you guys little by little.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to cry as I said it.
Yeah.
But now I feel much better
Yeah.
to handle it and be able to say it to people with proud.
You didn't even
You know?
cry.
No, I didn't even
proud
cry.
of you.
You know?
Yeah. And it's so much of his story that we weren't even able to get into, but he just, we didn't even hit the surface. But just wanted him, also for him to have the opportunity to talk, like he said, to tell his story, because he doesn't talk about it much. So, you feel good?
I feel great.
Yes, yes.
I feel great.
So we're excited to celebrate him on Father's Day, which is this Sunday. But just thank you for your time and for the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with you.
Thank you. And happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there and the daddies.
Yes.